up in the end of the day. It became a Wild West, too much for me to handle, too much for my wife to handle. So I went to Germany. My wife was German, and we lived there for 3 years, and I would have another eye-opening experience in the fact that Homer Kelly, golfing machine author, who was David Ledbetter, gets most of his ideas from Homer Kelly, and I would go to a golf academy where Homer Kelly, or somehow they bought the rights to Homer Kelly's book, and they were using his philosophy in their academy. And I would go through a week-long class with Homer Kelly and his book on physics. And when I finished that week's program, I probably knew about 3% of the book. I'm not a physics background, great in math, you know, it's easy for me to play golf, but physics was a limitation to me. I would read that book probably 50 times, and it would change my life, because now here I am, a guy who, great golfer, can teach really well, but I have no idea how to use the modern world's technology. I mean, I can figure out the line, up the down the line, all these kind of things, but I had no idea what the hands were producing. I imagine as a young pro playing on the tour in Venezuela, I didn't know that I was hitting down into the ball. I honestly could tell you that I probably didn't know how I was doing it. So now, this is the confessions of a golf teacher. But so when I come to America, you know, and again, I'm isolated in Venezuela. I've got David Ledbetter as the only person that's really my mentor. And in Venezuela, I am above any other teacher, not putting it bad or good. I was the best teacher in the country. You know, people would go to me. I had Jonathan Vegas, a former tour player, I helped him. Julio Nude, another guy that now works in Jim McLean's Golf Academy as a master teacher. He was one of my students. I had better students back in that era. I got scholarships to many places. You know, again, the kids in Venezuela were all from private clubs. They had money. But I was just playing with them all the time. We're working on short game, we're working on putting skills, how to hit a ball over a tree, how to curve it around a tree. And then suddenly, you know, I'm up here in this other world now, Germany. We're basically just giving half-hour lessons. Where in Venezuela, I played with lots of my students all the time. Money was different down there. Parents could pay for me to take the kids out on the course and just play 18 holes or 36 holes in a day. We just get lost out there playing. Here, you know, it's half-hour lessons, and certainly I have learned to become a better teacher over these 15 years. I've studied with some good teachers, and I'm also introduced to a young man right now who I'm very interested in, Patrick. I don't even remember his last name, but he has really been one of these young guys that knows the physics of the swing. I just say I wish I had their brains. I was listening to Tim Lambert at the golf show, the Cincinnati Golf Show, and I'm just thinking, man, I need his brains, you know. But again, I have, you know, so it's kind of fun to have the idea of getting the numbers, working with the technology, explaining the things, and I'm so thankful that I know now, you know, what the parts of the body do in being able to teach a more professional lesson. But the point is, you get all these numbers, you get all the everything in front of you, and I'm still wondering, you know, how many of the students actually even need it or understand it. And as Tim Lambert, what an outstanding brain he has. When I was listening to his speech, I was a little unsure of some of the things he was saying, you know, and here I am, a golf pro that knows things. So I was just thinking to his audience, were they really understanding him? Now, he's a great showman, but that was where I'm wondering, where do you blend in technology with feel? And that's probably one of the areas that we'll explore. And again, we were talking about how youth golf in America is difficult because it just costs a lot of money.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I met Jonathan Vegas when he was 12 years old. He came to, we had a golf camp called it was called the Fairway Golf for Champions. In other words, every kid in the country, we had divided up the country, east, west, north, south, and anybody, they'd have competitions throughout the year to see who won. Mm-hmm. So I met him when he was 12 years old, and he was probably at that time 6'4" and about 200 at the age of 12. This is Jonathan Vegas.
Oh yeah.
And
great
so in our camp for champions, we rented a golf course for the whole week. Nobody was there but us. We had a golf coach from University of Arkansas came for the whole week, and it was awesome. I was in director of instruction, and then there was a few other guys that came up that taught. And so, and we would always play 18 holes in the afternoon. We worked for 3 or 4 hours in the morning, played 18 holes. So I'm playing with Jonathan Vegas when he's 12 years old, and he's out driving me. He's out driving me down. And he, you know, what I remember about him, and I would work with him for about 5 years. I wasn't his primary instructor. My best friend was, named Pedro Centeno, but he would come through every one of my golf camps, and I knew him well, and I gave Pedro information. And Jonathan was a good friend of mine. He saw my daughter saw him 2 years ago, and I think it was a golf court tournament in Washington, D.C. He finished 4th in that week. He won, like, that was his last good check. But yeah, he was a nice young man. He had the quietest hands for a big guy too, man. That's what I always remember. He was a great putter, 12 years old, you know, and just smooth. You know, I'm thinking, where does this kid come from? And then he made it, which, you know, I had no contact with him after age 18 probably. Although I talked to him on the phone every now and then. I talked to him.